Oklahoma's super interesting. And Texas is in a position, I think. Let's start with recruiting, and then we'll go transfer portal, right? On the recruiting side of things, as soon as it happened, my very first thought went to five-star offensive lineman Devon Campbell, who's probably the number one candidate, the number one prospect in this class for Texas that they have to get. It felt like a Texas-Oklahoma battle. I had a future cast on Texas that I haven't changed, but Oklahoma is a school because of Bill Bedenbaugh that you thought could easily land that kid. But he loves USC. So he's already taken he's taken 2 visits to USC when it's been a dumpster fire. The dumpster fire part of USC didn't keep that kid from visiting twice. Now, the coach at Oklahoma, who was the big reason why he wanted to go to Oklahoma potentially, is at USC. NCAA rules now allow him to take a second official visit to USC if he wants to. Now it's a Texas-USC battle, I think, for Devon Campbell, and I have no idea how to call that. I mean, this is so new. Devon Campbell might be thinking, well, I don't want to go with Lincoln Riley. That guy is a liar. He could. Maybe he told Devon Campbell a week ago, I'm not going anywhere. And now Devon Campbell and his family are holding a grudge. Have no idea. It could potentially be great news for Texas. Or he might, in a couple of days, say, Link in LA, that's what's up. Like, let me go check that out. And it may be in the last month before he signs a completely different battle that's incredibly hard to handicap with that kid. You look at the Allen offensive lineman, Neto Umeozulu. I'm sure I said that wrong, but I've not yet.
I like the effort, though.
I have not yet worked on his Nigerian name. He's another kid that once upon a time, it looked like he was going to end up at USC. But then the dumpster fire thing kind of scared him away from USC. Now you have to think that Lincoln Riley will be trying to get that kid on campus again. And if he does, I don't know how to call that. Another really interesting one is the quarterback, Devin Brown. There's been a lot of talk of Texas potentially taking 2 quarterbacks in this class. I mean, Malik Murphy, a California kid, has all but said, hey, it's not ideal, but like, I'm not tripping. Like, I got to go and compete. So if they get another quarterback, they get another quarterback. Devin Brown is a kid that Texas has been working on, a national top 50 prospect. And he's been committed to USC, and he just decommitted last week. But does that kid come back? Does Lincoln Riley call him up and say, come visit? If he does, like, it's just hard to call. I think in the immediate short term, it doesn't help Texas with the obvious names that I think everybody will think of. And I think Devon Campbell's the main one, because USC now becomes such a wild card that if this were Vegas, they might be taking the odds off the books for a little bit. I don't know how you handicap that. I think with Oklahoma's current recruiting class, there are some names to potentially poach. And I think there's a linebacker out of Lubbock named Kobie McKinzie, who, if I'm not mistaken, was the first 2022 commitment for the Longhorns. I mean, for the Sooners. He decommitted almost immediately. And there's a lot of speculation now after watching his social media activity that he's going to end up flipping to the Longhorns maybe this week. I mean, he would be the first name. Kobie McKinzie. Everybody really needs to go start doing their rival searches on new names, because maybe they haven't paid any attention, but he is a big time inside linebacker prospect that I think could start for Texas as a freshman based on the state of the current Texas roster. He's a national top 50 prospect, top 20 guy in the state of Texas. He doesn't fall into that category of absolute monster prospects, but he's a tier below that. And he would rank as probably like one of the top 6 or 7 commitments in this class if he committed today to the Longhorns. And I do think they're going to get him based on the buzz that we're hearing.
Ketch, this is a good window of opportunity for Sarkisian and his staff. I mean, this, again, going head to head against, Lincoln Riley, even if they didn't make the Big 12 championship game, he's already established so much that people will give you a mulligan on that one. And having to recruit head to head when you finish 5-7, it's a tough task. It's a tough task and it's a tough ask. But if he's gone, and you have to make the decision. Like, one, he has to want you. Like, obviously, he'll want Devon Campbell to go out to USC. Like, that's clearly a no-brainer as far as that is concerned. But some of the other guys that you've mentioned, now you've got decisions to make. You've got to say, all right, these guys who are reopening it. Did you go back to your second place team or your third place team, and do you decide that, hey, do I want to leave the state or I want to stay somewhere local? I mean, there's a window of opportunity here for them to really sell and pitch the program, whether it's stay locally or believe in the vision or whatever the case may be. They've just got to find a way. It's going to be hard because it's going to be a shiny new toy Ketch for the USC thing. I mean, look, that's going to be the place where all the guys are going to want to go, right? I mean, everyone wants to go to Alabama or Clemson, but USC, Lincoln Riley, like, he adds a little dimension to that.
It's sexy.
It's definitely real sexy. I mean, it's LA, it's prime time. I mean, all those kind of things. Like, it definitely is, going to Norman, and that's kind of a business decision, right? You're going there because you're going to know you're going to win. 2, compete for, titles, and then 3, go pro. You could get that at also in LA and enjoy all the perks that are out there. USC, I'll get back to your specifics. USC now becomes a program that is like another program. All these other programs are coming into Texas and trying to steal the talent. You've had to fight off the Alabamas of the world, the Clemsons of the world. Oregon comes in and grabs guys here and there. All these programs. Now USC becomes a program where if he decides, I want to come in and compete for some of the top guys in this state, he can do it knowing that he's got some of those connections. So I will be interested. Ketch, I mean, signing day is what, December 15th? When is signing day, Ketch? Is it the 15th?
December 15th.
December 15th. So these guys essentially have a little over 2 weeks if they want to sign on the 15th. Most guys want to sign on the 15th and not necessarily wait until February, kind of the seal and solidify their spots. I don't know what they do within the next 2 weeks. But I mean, if you're Sark and you're on the road this week recruiting, and I'm hitting it hard. I'm everywhere that Devon Campbell is, and because that's a guy I would agree with you is a must get. And I think last thing, Ketch, with 2 decommits that happened over the weekend, it was kind of like that kind of sucked. And I know it wasn't earth shattering, but it doesn't help. Being able to now have this kind of second life to pull off these things, good. Like I said, last thing I'll say one more time is somewhat redundant. Good opportunity for the staff.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not tripping about the decommitments. I wrote about this in my 10 thoughts from the weekend. Not that those players are not good prospects. I mean, look, Jamarian Miller is going to Alabama, but if Texas wasn't 4 deep at running back, I'd feel differently going into next season. Texas really needs to be about how do we make this program better next year? If you can get a Devon Campbell, or you can get a 5-star level or a high 4-star level prospect, or in the case of a Kobie McKinzie, like a very good mid 4-star prospect, I totally get it. But if it's not one of those dudes, they need to be thinking portal this year. I did the numbers. We can talk about this in a video later this week, but I did the numbers on like the top guys in the portal, and over 60% of the top guys in the portal last year were starters at a minimum at their program this year. There were actually very few busts, just outright busts. if you're shopping in the right place in the portal, you can improve your team significantly. Texas has to find a way to weaponize the portal to get better next year. So they lose like a 3-star, linebacker, out-of-state linebacker. And I'm like, that's a 3-year project. Texas can't be doing 3-year projects, if at all possible, right now. They need guys that can come in. And I'm not saying this is the case for every recruiting class moving forward. It's just a recruiting case right now in 2022. They have got to find a way to inject more stability and strength in the 2 deep immediately going. This is a 5-17. Steve Sarkisian doesn't have till 2025 to get this thing rolling. So as it relates to the decommitments, I just wasn't tripping because not one of those dudes was going to come in next year and make an impact. And that's not to say they weren't good prospects, because 2 of them were really good prospects, but really good doesn't help Texas in 2022. And right now, Steve Sarkisian can't think about much more than 2022. How do we get above the Mendoza line? How do we get back to a bowl game? I mean, 7-5 is improvement, but that'll get you fired at Texas. So like, he's lost this is an opportunity for him. Take some Oklahoma players out of the portal. Who do you like? I'm all about Texas skirting the gray areas to communicate to guys. If you're interested, come on down. That needs to be the name of the game right now. And if it's not a guy that impacts the roster immediately, the 2 deep immediately, I'm not going to be worrying at all about it. So in a weird way, it's kind of, for Texas, it can be relieving to a certain extent, because that just opened up 3 more spots potentially to fill with players who are more apt to help this team and this program immediately. That's it for me. You got anything else?
No, I mean, like I said, it's no. I'm very intrigued to see what happens, over the next, couple of weeks. Again, from a Texas perspective, I think you're right. I mean, it's a victory, I guess for Texas, but at the end of the day, I still want to see who they hire, at OU, because I thought Texas had a good victory when Stoops stepped down. And I was convinced. I was like, oh, and I had the articles, and I would tell. I thought Tom Herman would be the creme de la creme, and I don't know who this Lincoln Riley guy is. I mean, I know he coached over there, but what's he really going to do? And a few years later, I'm like, hey, it's like, oh shit, he was actually really good. So I want to see who they hire first, and then of course see it play out, because I've counted OU out before, but Lincoln Riley he kicked OU in the nuts over the weekend, and he has left this program in a dire situation where they're going to lose recruits, lose guys to the transfer portal, staff members. Ketch, that staff is pretty much done. Like that staff that he assembled, the all-star staff. Those guys are out of jobs. We've seen this. See, OU's not used to this. OU's not used to a new coach that comes in and has to fire everybody. Your staff is over. You will start from scratch and hope that you.
And it's hard. Like, look, the one thing that you can take, if you're an OU fan watching this video, if there's one thing that you can take to the bank as absolute fact that Anwar and I know better than anybody, it's not easy to bring really talented new people in and it just come together. And my final point would be, just to piggyback on this one, Anwar.
Yeah.
Oklahoma has been that guy in Vegas at the craps tables who's on a heater. And you're like, my God, this is incredible. But in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, cash out. Oh, he won again. Cash out. Oh, he won again. At some point, either you walk away or you lose. Yeah. And Oklahoma's due for a miss. Now, they might not miss, but they've been all-time historically good hires back to back the last 2 times they've done this. The math says that's incredibly hard to pull off. It's even more incredibly hard to pull off a 3rd time in a row. We'll all get our popcorn and we're all eagerly watching to see what happens next. Look, Anwar and I will be doing videos all week long, just because there's no more Texas football games. Look, today you get the video earlier. There are positives about Texas not being bowl eligible. And the Monday Overreaction show coming out a few hours earlier today because there's no press conference. That's one of them. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel. We'll be at it all week long. We'll have updates. We're going to talk portal and recruiting and everything you can imagine throughout the week. For Anwar Richardson and myself, happy holidays, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Later.